Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO, Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee, and we're so appreciative of them. We love them. We're grateful, and we just couldn't do it without them. So big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Also super grateful to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his music and his voice at his time for that intro that you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on any of your favorite music platforms. So check him out. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also, I would say specializes in the horror genre, does phenomenal pieces. Check him out over there. Maybe get a commission piece. Guys just can do anything. Comic books, graphic novels, you name it. Family photo, picture of your pet. Anyway, check him out. Tonight, we welcome back Lester Velez. And he's going to be discussing his new book, The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien or On-Alien Contact. So this is a big thing. He wants to touch on the impact of the congressional hearings on the UAP phenomenon. How is this going to affect experiencers and the stigma that's going to surround them, and much more. So to participate. I'm really tongue-tied tonight, so I do apologize. To participate, guys, you know the drill. We've got 7 chat rooms and no chat room on Roku, but it's all going to come down from 7 into 1. So we do our very best to get back to everybody, make sure we acknowledge as many people as we can. But of course, we have to go with the flow of the guest and where he's at in the conversation. So we're just waiting for him to come on board. While we're waiting, we're going to put it out there. Let's get some nice positive vibes, healing vibes and prayers, white light, and all of those hugs that people like to send to Bubbles. Amelia, who is, of course, not feeling well. And, she's also got her daughter who's, as she's spoken about on the show, gone through a kidney transplant, and she just did a biopsy waiting on some results. So the family's just hanging tight in there and spending whatever time they can together and just trying to work through the waiting, which is always the hardest part of the whole thing. So let's send her some good love and light and prayers and good vibrations. And hopefully we'll get some news on that soon, and she'll be back next week, which should be awesome. So essentially, a look at the book. I want to give a little blip about what I read on the book today. Les's book. A look at how OPUS, which is organization that he'll speak about, which is the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, came about initially to help people with their paranormal experiences and the paranormal phenomenon of alien contact. I find that super interesting, the paranormal phenomenon of alien contact and the physiological and psychological characteristics, along with the latest UAP information presented by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. So we know that there's definitely a connection with the paranormal, without a doubt. There's a connection. I've spoken a few times about having worked with people in the past, and this is spanning 2 decades, And at least half of these people also reported having extraterrestrial or abductions. They were experiencers as well. So it wasn't just paranormal, it was also extraterrestrial. Some of these people were abductees, some of these people were, contactees. We know they're all experiencers in one form or another. So 50%, that's pretty big, and we've been able to link sleep paralysis. We've been able to link a lot of the similar characteristics that we get from paranormal, let's say malevolent attachments, or just the activity, poltergeist activity, all this sort of stuff. We've been able to come up with the same sort of attributes, but on an extraterrestrial level. So it's kind of interesting to think how similar they really are. So thanks everybody. We appreciate it. Yes. Hold on. Where am I going here? Lots of prayers out to Amelia's daughter and Amelia and the family. Thank you, Faye. I will see you next Tuesday night on Faye's Angels. Go check out Faye Ewing, guys. Yours truly going to be making a little hello, sending light to Amelia. Thank you. And yes, the movie The Uninvited. That was a great movie. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Les, and we're going to catch up with him. It's been a long time, and we're really happy that he's back. And I know Amelia's just sort of like going, come on, how can I be missing this? So hopefully she's watching from the sidelines. Oh, yes.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good to see you again.
You too. It's so nice.
You're looking very lovely this evening.
Thank you very much. Not bad. This is what tired looks like. So, oh my gosh, it's been great to see you. I've really been looking forward to having you back on, and of course with your book, which I'm going to put up right now just for people to see.
Oh, great.
Excellent cover. I love it. So, Forward by Linda Moulton Howe, which is great as well, because she's also affiliated with your network, isn't she?
Yes, she's on our advisory committee.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're very lucky to have her involved. I've known her for long time.
Nice.
And we chat every once in a while and catch up on the latest and greatest stuff that is happening in this world. And oh my God, there's been so much stuff going on lately. It's just amazing. This week alone, there's been a couple of things which we can talk about.
Please.
Yeah.
I want you to take the stage. I want you to catch us up to what you've been doing since your last time on the show. And I'd like you to also talk about OPUS for those who, because I mean, you were on with us early days. Now we're up to the high 2.8 to 3 million plus people who are listening. So that's a substantial more. Oh yeah, that's a
fantastic.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's great for everyone who comes on, but there's so many more people now that we want to make sure we kind of catch them up and bring them up to speed on yourself, your organization, and then we can go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Well,
Awesome.
To begin with, as far as how I got involved with all of this, I have to go back to when I was 11 years old and I saw this object and it scared the hell out of me.
Right.
And I ran in a house and tried to get my father to come out. It was a late October evening. And by the time he came out, it was gone. And he says, oh, it was probably just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud or something. And I didn't believe it.
Right.
That was no beacon of light reflecting off a cloud.
Right.
And I went to the library and started reading books on UFOs. And back in those days, it was George Adamski was the preeminent author in the ufological field.
Right.
And so I really got into it for a while. And then, of course, like I said, I was only 11 years old at that point. I got a little bit older and girls became a little bit more interesting in my life.
Of course.
I kind of forgot about the UFO situation. And anyway, long story short, went off to college, went in the service, eventually got married. And in 1985, I moved out to California from Connecticut, where I was living at the time, and picked up the paper, San Jose Mercury News, as it was called back in those days. Now it's just the Mercury News. Stanton Freeman, a nuclear physicist, was coming to San Jose City College to talk about UFOs and the government cover-up. And I'm going, holy crap. I got
That's
to
a
go.
biggie.
Yeah,
Right.
I gotta go
Right.
see this guy. And I expected to see a handful of people. Well, the auditorium was packed, and on my way out, in the foyer, there was an organization by the name of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, that had a table out there, and they were talking about this journal that they produce on a monthly basis. So I decided, okay, I'm going to get this journal, and started reading about cases and everything. And after a while, it was like, that's not enough. And
Mm.
I decided to become a field investigator. They had a field investigator training course, and I took that. And this is when things got very interesting, because most of the cases that I got involved with were not only uh, sightings, but people were telling me that they had contact with non-human intelligences. And I'm going, what? The first case, like, my believability quotient wasn't quite there in that regard.
Right.
And but then the second case, and then the third case, and then the fourth case, and it's like, there's definitely something going on, and
Right.
so I started to really understand that there is something that we do not understand happening to these people.
Right.
And in talking to these people, some of them had already gone to a psychologist or a psychiatrist because they thought they were going crazy, but
Mhm.
found out that they didn't have a psychopathology. And so, what the hell do they do next? So the next thing that happened, one of the people said to me, "Do you know of other people having these kind of experiences?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I started to facilitate a support group in my office in San Jose. And
Mm.
that's when things really got interesting, because the stories that came out were just phenomenal. And a lot of the stories of experiencers are in the book, the Unknown Other. There's like about 25 cases in that book that are from people that are in the online support group that OPUS has availability to these people. It's a confidential online support group that we provide. Um, and it's international. We have almost 400 people from around the world that are
Wow.
talking 24/7, about their situations, asking questions, and it's proved to be probably the most helpful vehicle
Mm.
for these people. We
Mhm.
also we also have a referral network of mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists, that if a
Excellent.
person is looking for something like that, we can help them with that.
That's excellent. I
Yeah.
find it interesting that Opus is basically like a paranormal type support group, and I like the paranormal and the connection to contact,
Hmm.
because I know that in the 2 decades that I've been working in the field, I've assisted people who thought they were having just a paranormal experience, and at least half of the amount of like, and we're talking like thousands of people throughout
Hmm.
2 decades, half of those, at least 50%, actually had extraterrestrial and UFO connections. And it wasn't just plain, no, it's
Right.
not a spirit in the house. No, it's
Right.
not something attaching. It's something else.
There's an incredible connection between all these factors. One of
Mhm.
the things that our organization has done, and matter of fact, in the process of doing, is we have a study that's going on right now, and we finished the first phase of it. That we sent a questionnaire out to the therapists
Mhm.
to tell us what kinds of things they're encountering, because our bottom line on this is we're trying to educate the mental health community, but also uh, trying to understand what modalities that they're using to
Mhm.
help these people. So,
Right,
one of
right.
the things that most of the people talk about is the
Mhm.
fact that they're in contact with the Greys. This seems to be like the number one guy that people talk about. But
Yeah.
The second thing
Yes.
is they talk about orbs. All right, that
Mhm.
there's in contact with these energies.
And paranormal community, a lot of them, at least half of them, frown on orbs. So I'm interested to hear
Yeah,
your perspective on that.
absolutely. And then the third thing, and I'll get back to that,
Yeah, of course.
is interdimensional type energy
Yes.
beings. And the
Yes.
fourth thing is poltergeist, ghosts.
Yes.
Um, and so the paranormal, if you look at all the aspects of it, whether it's spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, um, poltergeist activity, alien, extraterrestrial types of things. Of course, we're not sure they are extraterrestrial.
Mm.
Are they extraterrestrial? Are they interdimensionals? Are they time travelers? Are
Mm.
they our military, or all the above? Which I
Mhm.
believe it is. I think
Right.
it can
I
be all the above.
I agree
But
with you.
orbs, there's been so much evidence. When you take a look at these things, pictures that are captured, and it's not dust. It's not dust on the lens, or in the air. Uh,
Mhm.
and I
Dander.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dander,
pollen.
whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the in a lot of these pictures, I had an incident back in a number of years ago, actually, in Arizona, in Sedona. Um, I had gone to see Tom Dongo, who was like the guy in Sedona about the paranormal.
Mhm.
And after having lunch with him, he said, "You got to meet this woman who's been taking some incredible pictures of these orbs." And so we set it up, and I went out to her place, and she had this ability to sense when something was there,
Mhm.
okay? And you could not see it. You couldn't see it. But what she used to do, she had a 35 millimeter digital camera, and she would start clicking away
Mhm.
and taking multiple pictures. Well, this this evening that I was there, she sensed something, and she said to me afterwards, "I sensed it was over your head. I was sitting on the back porch."
Mhm.
And so when we went in and looked at the pictures that she had taken, and this was a red orb with like a yellow cap on it. And
Wow.
every picture that she took, the cap moved. In other words, so
Mhm.
it was movement going on
Right.
with it.
Right.
And this was not this was not any kind of
No.
particle that was floating around. And this was big. It was rather big, but I
Right.
didn't see it at the time,
Right.
and you couldn't see it with the naked eye, but the camera picked it up, which
Right.
again, that happens in a lot of cases where you have infrared capabilities that the cameras can pick them up, and
Right.
that's been in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but moving, yeah,
I
moving
I
on.
I agree. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, I think that uh, I was contacted by um, the international director for MUFON, asked me if he could give this reporter from the Monterey Coast Weekly paper my name and contact, because he wanted to do an article on UFOs and things. And so he came out, and we did an interview, and it got published, and did a nice job on that. And afterwards, I got a call from a woman down in Carmel, California, and she wanted to know what was going on with her brain when she was in contact with these off-earthly entities. And I'm saying to myself, well, I have no idea how I could possibly help this woman. And then she said she was working with an emergency room doctor down there.
Mm.
And I had a doctor friend, Dr. Eugene Lipson, who was interested in um, connecting with other medical people, doctors
Mhm.
particularly, that are interested in the phenomena. So I called him up and I told him the situation, and I said, "Why don't we go down there and talk to this woman and just see what we can find out?"
Mhm.
And so we did. We walked into her home, and as we walked in, there was a picture on the wall, and it was her standing on the back of a rather large boat in beautiful, crystal clear blue water, and it caught my attention. And I said, "So what's this all about?" and her name was Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Carol, what's this all about? He says, I was helping these treasure hunters. And I said, really? How were you doing that? She says, well, I was in contact with the captain of the galleon that had gone down.
Ah.
So
Great.
that started the afternoon off, and it was like, what? What did you say? So subsequently, what we found out that she had become very psychic after a near-death experience.
Normal? That's
Hmm.
common. Yeah.
And so the rest of the afternoon, she was telling us stuff about ourselves that there was no possible way she could know that.
Right.
So when we came away that afternoon, we stopped at this hamburger joint and started talking about it and say, how can we possibly help people like this? We need to, if we're going to do that kind of work, we
Mm-hmm.
need to set up an organization. And that's when OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, was hatched.
Brilliant.
And
Mm-hmm.
then in 1994, we officially became a nonprofit 501c3 organization recognized by the IRS, which
Mm-hmm.
always blows my mind that the IRS is involved with the paranormal.
I know, weird, isn't it? You have to love it.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah.
so and we've been doing this thing ever since, and we get 2 to 3 calls a day from
Wow.
people, and it's going to ratchet up even more now that these congressional hearings have happened, and Grush has come forward, and Graves, and these pilots that are talking about their experiences with these objects, um, and Grush's comments about the fact that we do have alien biological bodies. We have crashed UFOs or even intact type UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, he's evidently Congress has passed a bill that he's going to be able to maintain his top secret clearance so that he can talk even more about these types of things to Congress. And so that's moving forward. And then Kirkpatrick, who was the head of the A.A.R.O., that investigative branch that was looking at all these UFO things, basically said that, yeah, we know about these. The government does have these things, and so
That's a big step.
it is a huge step, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
thing that's concerning to me about this is that we have you know these people that have had these types of experiences. There's a huge stigma that's
Mm.
attached to it.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can't talk to family members a lot of times. You can't talk to your own spouse. You can't talk to
Mm-hmm.
your fellow workers. You can't talk to clergy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're afraid that the people will think they're nuts. But the bottom line is that this is like another group that could be ostracized in some way, shape, or form. We have problems with prejudice,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's against the blacks, the Jews, you name it, whatever.
There's
I mean, there's so
division. Everything has
yeah,
has its share of division, unfortunately. And
yeah,
in this day and age, I'm surprised that there's, I mean, I am and I'm not surprised that people are afraid to talk about any areas of high strangeness, UFOs, and
right.
because it's so out there now.
And but fortunately, in another respect, that I think the latest survey that was done, that like 70% of the people believe that we're not alone. That's
That's
huge.
huge. That's
That's
huge.
huge. So that's the first step. But at the same time, these people, in a lot of cases, are starting to exhibit skill sets, if you will,
Hmm.
or abilities that could be, scary. It's like the old witch
Yes.
trials in Salem. I mean, these women were basically healers.
Yes.
They
Pretty
had that
much.
capability.
Yes.
Um, but then they were burned at the stake or hung or
Right.
things of that nature. So the same thing could possibly happen to these people that do have certain skill sets, whether it's telepathic capabilities,
Hmm.
psychic abilities, um, and healing abilities. Okay,
Yes.
so here's one that I was really surprised at. I spoke at a MUFON symposium a couple of years ago in Las Vegas, and this couple came up to me afterwards, and it turned out to be Robert Salas, who's well known in the ufological field is that he was a captain at the Maelstrom Air Force Base when this UFO came over and shut all the missiles down. Well, guess what?
Wow.
He came up to me afterwards and said, "Can we talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." So I went into the exhibitor room. I was hawking my book,
Yes.
and he, he and his wife both were abducted. They both have had an experience. And when his wife came back, she developed healing capabilities. And so
Wow.
she's doing those kind of things now.
Right.
And they found Gary Nolan from Stanford University
Mm.
um, did a study on a group of these people.
Mhm.
And they found that in the area of the caudate and putamen, that there was more connections between those two areas in the brain. And these people exhibited these types of capabilities, psychic abilities, telepathic capabilities, um, and that it was generational, and that these
Mm.
people were also able to hook up with other people that had the same types of characteristics.
Mhm.
So that is very interesting because I think it's an evolutionary process that's going on. I think
Mhm.
that eventually those are the people that will be here on this planet, and you and I who maybe don't have that. I'll talk for myself. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. You might have psychic abilities and all kinds of abilities, but for
I'm also an
me,
experiencer.
there you go.
As is, I have a long line of it. Well, we went back as far as my great grandparents,
Uh-huh.
with stories through the family. But yeah, it's all definitely there.
Yeah, and it's definitely generational, and
Yes.
so I think that's what's going to happen is that we're going to evolve into this having this type of a capability,
Hmm.
uh, and so I just won't be around anymore. It's like
Ah.
the next group of
Right.
people are going to take over, but
Right.
in one way, I think that's very good
Hmm.
because I think that's what's going to be needed to stop all this freaking craziness that's going on in this world with all these wars. You know, what a waste of humanity and time and effort and to kill people and all of this. And one of the things that a lot of people that have had experiences like yourself, they come back with a whole different worldview that we need to be better stewards of the planet. We need to be more loving. we
Hmm.
need we need to be better to one another, and
Hmm.
that's really wonderful. So
It
if
is.
there's always a couple of camps. You have the camps that believe all the aliens or these extraterrestrials are good, and then the other group that say they're all bad. Well, I
I
think it's like a mixture.
It is.
We
I think it depends on the experiences. Some people have horrific experiences, but
Yeah.
there's people who have unbelievable experiences,
Oh
very
yeah.
positive experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And so just like we have good people and bad people here on this plane,
Of course.
we the same thing is
Yeah.
going on up wherever
Right.
up there.
Who knows?
Who
Yeah.
knows? All
Yeah.
around us.
Right.
Yeah. I tell you, it's just something that it's another reality. It's another reality that's probably always been here, that we
Mhm.
just now are starting to maybe touch around the edges of it, and trying to understand it. Whether or not we'll ever understand it.
I think
Uh,
it goes back, to again ancient times. You just look around. You just have to look at
uh,
structures. You just have to look at petroglyphs and hieroglyphs and
um,
out of place artifacts and things that are
yeah,
dated going back hundreds of, like, even billions of years, hundreds of billions of years. Things that
yeah,
can't be explained. We're not the first kick at the can.
yeah,
We're not the first civilizations. We probably won't be the last, at least I hope we won't be the last. But there
yeah.
are some theorists out there who believe that we could very well be the last go,
Mhm,
on a grand scheme of things. But who knows? Right now, we live in the now, and there are more people coming forward and talking about it, and like
mhm,
organizations like yours are making it easy, because I know, like, we were younger, I can speak for myself, and I'm
mhm.
sure it was the same, but it was one of those things that, no, no, we don't talk about things like that, dear.
Right.
because it was
exactly.
just not something you did, because
It,
what will the neighbors say? What will our well, my family
it,
was cool because they were all having experiences, but
uh,
didn't mean that was everybody.
no, and unfortunately, that's the typical, as
Yeah.
you say, the people were suppressed, children were suppressed. I mean, eh, you know, I hear so many stories about when I was young, and I was 5 or 6 years old, and I was able to know what people were thinking or feeling,
Mhm.
and tell my parents, and they say, well, no, just forget it, or they were having experiences, and they say, oh, it's just a bad dream or something. A lot of that was
I'll get
just,
back to that. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So it's unfortunate, but there are people that are more worldly in that regard, and have
So
nurtured it,
right.
and nurtured their children, and said,
Right.
okay, let's look at this and see what this means, and see if we can
Mhm.
figure something out.
I think it's important, in anything in life, even if it's just a child. I mean, they're all pretty brilliant. They haven't been corrupted by life, having to get a job and
Right.
have worries and stresses. I mean, they've got their own. But I always say, when a parent belittles a child for having an imaginary friend, if
Mm-hmm.
that child doesn't feel secure enough to go to his protectors and tell him what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
that could end up setting the stage for just a really, frightful child going through life. And that child
Sure.
is very gifted in seeing things. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. There've been reports of children who have had extraterrestrial experiences and who are quite comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with
Oh,
them.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And matter of fact, one of the people in our support group, she has two children,
Mhm.
older children,
Right.
and I mean, all three of them are very much involved with the whole process, and are totally open to it, and are comfortable with it, and so yeah, there are
Yeah.
people that are more enlightened, if you will.
I think we're living in a time where it is becoming more accepted. You're always going to have the people that don't want to have the experience, don't believe they've had the experience, don't care to have the experience, or have had them and don't want to talk about it. And then I think you have those that will pave the way by listening to stories of other people who have come forward. We have somebody in the chat room, Lisa.
Hmm.
Lisa's also written a book, and Lisa's been on the show, and
Oh.
she has had horrific experiences.
Hmm. Yep.
So yeah, connect with Les. Connect
Well,
with Opus.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we do have tools that we can help you with, and
Hmm.
we'd love to have you. You just go to our website, which is opusnetwork.org. That's
Right.
under my puss over here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and there's a contact button there, and a support button, and then you just hit that and tell us a
Just
little
tell
bit
him
of
you saw
info.
Les on the show tonight. You got a personal invite. There we go.
Exactly. Please, Lisa, contact us.
Yes, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
she's.
I I I really feel for these people that have gone through horrific, type of, scenarios, and,
Mhm,
in a lot of cases, it ruins their lives. They can't work, you can't sleep, they can't eat. I mean,
mhm,
they're mentally a wreck. Uh, but,
mhm,
the bottom line in most of these cases, the vast majority, that once they start talking about their instances, and talking to other people about their, like in the support group is, as I said earlier,
mhm.
it's turned out to be a wonderful vehicle for people. I think it's been one of the most helpful things, because people know that they're not alone, that
Mhm.
other people are having similar types of experiences, and they're here, they've managed to get through it. And we
Yes.
do we do have a couple of books that we recommend,
Mm.
for people that if they are having continuing experiences, negative experiences, how to stop them. And so we can certainly do that. And
So, I mean, here's a question that, I mean, it gets a little bit touchy, but
mhm,
my lab,
yeah, yeah,
how
Bill.
how how do you navigate that one?
Well, that's
That's
yeah,
common.
Yeah, and that's a tough one.
Hmm.
That's a real tough one, especially if it's an ongoing situation,
Hmm.
um, where you have not only aliens in the room, but you have military people in the room, and
Hmm.
that whole scenario, like
Hmm.
uh, uh,
I know you can only say so much because it gets really technical, convoluted, and but it is, I mean, I've met so many people going through it. Again, very traumatizing. So
oh yeah,
it's a different sort of trauma, and I think sometimes people don't realize the differences because you don't get to remember everything. So you're associating right off the bat with ET and possibly missing out on a really lovely experience.
hmm hmm yeah. There's no definitive answer for any of
Yeah.
this, unfortunately.
Right.
All we can do is uh, give some type of guidance, as
Mhm.
far as where to look for information, what to do. But the my lab type stuff is really, very scary stuff. It really is,
Yeah.
and it's happening. It's happened, and you know, the only thing you can do in those kind of cases is to um, protect yourself as much as you can,
Mhm.
by being around people and not
Mm.
hanging out all by yourself in some
Mm.
secluded wood shack somewhere.
Right. And maybe
Uh,
joining, a
yeah,
network like OPUS
yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah,
just to
yeah.
find support in any way
Exactly,
that you can
exactly,
find.
exactly.
Okay, I'm just going to get to some comments before we get too far ahead because people on
hmm
the show know that we get to it, and while we're still in the
hmm
moment of the conversation before we move along. So here's Robert. Hi, Robert. I just
hmm
heard the government aircraft that transport workers, Air America, aka Janet, are
hmm
changing call sign and looking for a new carrier.
Mm. I couldn't tell you a thing about that, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm just putting it out there. I'm
Yeah,
just putting it out there.
no, yeah, the
And
old Area 51 transport
right.
group.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and
I'm sure there's a lot of things being changed now because uh, with these revelations, the congressional hearings that have gone on,
mhm.
and the AARO that's been set up by the Biden actually got that started a year and a half ago, 18 months ago,
Wow.
and Kirkpatrick now is retiring
Mhm.
officially, and his deputy is taking over until they find somebody new to take over. But Politico put out an article today, I guess it was, about the story behind uh, why Kirkpatrick is leaving, and
Mhm.
that he basically came out with the fact that, yeah, we have stuff.
Yeah, stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's going to start unfolding. The Air Force base that you were speaking of,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, he goes, it really happened at Air Force Base. I knew a man who was in command center. He passed away in the 90s, scared the hell out of him. He
Mm,
says so. That's
mm.
more of a comment. So,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
you know,
Absolutely.
um,
Thank you for that. Um, there's so much intrigue, if you will,
yes.
that's involved with this. I mean, you have people that are knowledgeable, they have information,
Hmm.
uh, and then you have people that don't want any of this to come out.
Hmm.
And so you've got major forces battling each other here to either bring it out or to suppress it, and
Right.
which is unfortunate. But the Mexican government, Jaime Maussan, just had his big presentation yesterday. Was
Hmm.
it yesterday or the day before? I
I
forget.
think the day before, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and with the analysis of the mummies that they had, and they did a fantastic job of talking about it and bringing out evidence that
Hmm.
these things were alive. These are not put together in any way, shape, or form. They were alive at some point,
Hmm.
and they were unusual. They had unusual characteristics,
Hmm.
and so there you have it. Now, is this something that was extraterrestrial in nature, or is this something that's been part
Terrestrial.
of our,
The
yeah, terrestrial, been part of our our
Mhm.
world, you know,
Mhm.
for centuries, but you know, finally they
Mm.
disappeared off the face of the earth, became extinct for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, you just go back, we lost 2 continents, at one point, so, I mean, those people had to go somewhere, we I think we where we should be evolving, I think sometimes we just go the way of the dodo bird, and we also, have had people here go extinct.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, you know, the biggest worry right now is whether or not we're going to get involved with World War III.
Ah,
Uh, you know,
yeah,
with you know, Russia and
mhm,
Ukraine, and now Israel and
mhm.
Hamas.
Serious times.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Mm,
And you know, there's been probably two or three major extinctions, or maybe even more, that have occurred on the planet. And Mother Earth, Gaia, is
yes.
she's good at making corrections. Uh,
Cleaning
one of
herself up. Yeah.
Exactly, and you know, one of the things that I've thought about it ever since I was a kid. You know, when you start hearing about all the forests being cut down, you know, especially
Mm,
in South America and Brazil, the
mhm.
rainforests are being cut down because they want to grow more beef. You know, um,
That's hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so one day there's just not going to be enough oxygen, and all of a sudden everybody in the world will die at the same time.
Mhm.
That'll be it. There won't be
Yeah.
anybody left
If
because
something
there's not
else
enough.
doesn't hit us.
And then eventually Mother Earth will correct that. She'll grow more
Mm,
trees and there'll be more oxygen, and then a
mhm,
whole new civilization will come about, perhaps. You know,
mhm.
who knows?
It's frightening to think about, and with everything that's going on, let me ask you this, do you feel that ET should intervene, or will they intervene, or do you think they're just sitting back there going, "We have to let this play out because the kids don't know how to play nicely in the sandbox, so that's the end of it."
I think that the experiences that we had at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and another base, which
Mm,
I can't remember where it was, and then in Russia, they had one where basically it looks like those things were about to launch, you know, instead of being shut down.
mm,
Um, and again, UFOs were involved in it, these objects. Um, they actually shot down a UFO. There's incredible video footage of this, and I can't think of the gentleman's name who was involved with the program. Um, this object comes in, and this was a test of the Atlas rocket program, and this thing shot a beam of light out, and it blew it up. So I think that they've already made themselves known that they can stop things. They can make things
mm,
difficult for us.
mhm,
And I think that my take on this is that I would hope that if Russia or the Iranians or whoever, or the North Koreans start chucking missiles around,
mhm,
that they do come in and stop it before it gets out of hand. Because if that does happen, it's all hell's going to break loose, and
mhm.
this is going to be not a nice place to live anymore.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, the way the powers that be are going, I have a feeling they're not gonna
Oh,
make it easy for
oh,
sure,
oh, boy.
sadly. Um, do you recommend hypnosis when it comes to being an experiencer or an
Well,
abductee?
here's the thing that I always counsel people on with regard to hypnosis. You need to be very sure that you want to do it, number one,
Mhm,
because you may find out something that you don't want to hear. And
mhm.
you know, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's hard to put it back in.
Right.
I like to say, and so, and I've number of times where people have said, "Yeah, I'd like to get some hypnosis," and then I talked to them for a while, and you know, you could sense that they weren't really ready. And I said, "You know what? You might want to wait and think about this a little bit more, because you got to be really sure that you want to go through it." And
Mhm,
then once they do make that decision, then what we found that probably some of the modalities that have worked very well for hypnotherapists is the EMDR uh,
right.
modality, and then the QHHT. modality that Dolores Cannon utilized and came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and you have to be someone that, and we have a list of certified hypnotherapists uh, and licensed mental health practitioners. Uh, because you don't want to go to somebody that's not familiar with the subject. And so
Mm-hmm.
all these people are familiar with the whole paranormal phenomena. And you want to definitely find someone like that. And if you're looking for someone like that, you can contact us, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can uh, give you names. And we're always looking for more certified hypnotherapists that have that kind of background, because I think now that as all these hearings are going on and all this information is coming forward, more and more people are coming forward
Mm-hmm.
and looking for help, and with their experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you know anybody out there that is a hypnotherapist that you can recommend, we'd love to know the names, and you can contact us. There's a way to contact us through our website.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, so let's go back to the congressional hearings
Hmm.
for a bit. Um, they concern you due to like how it can affect, experiencers and contactees. What concerns you specifically about that? I mean, you're going to have some people saying, no, no, this is a great thing. This is a great thing. Then, there are people such as yourself who's like, we have to be cautious with this.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's validation for the experiencer, and I
Yeah.
believe they're probably saying that this is a wonderful thing. And where I kind of cautious about this is the fact that now you're raising the specter of more skepticism,
Mm,
more and more you know the likelihood of people having this idea that these people are special in any way, shape, or form, and that we need to be this idea of prejudice may come up in that regard, and that these people are going to be looked down upon or looked at as being weird in
mhm,
some way, shape, or form. um, yeah, it carries a lot of baggage, and so that's the aspect that I'm looking at. I mean, I think the hearings are great. I think this needs to happen.
mhm,
But the other side of the coin is that there's a stigma attached to it, and then, as I said earlier, that we do have a lot of prejudice in our world, and this may be another group that might be looked down upon in some way, shape, or form. And
mhm.
it just you have to be really um, uh, concerned about the experiencers in that regard, I think.
Can't we use, for example's sake, because the U.S. is sort of one of the last countries to come on board with disclosure. I mean, you have countries like France. They
Mhm,
actually had a program in place where it's just like, no, we want to know about your experiences. And when there was experiences in the country, well, for the most part, they would put some of them through their organization that they would make the public aware of. I'm sure there were many that never made it.
mhm,
Peru was the same, Brazil. There's many countries that are very forthcoming with it. Heck, even Russia was one of the first
mhm,
handful to say, yeah,
mhm. Yeah.
here's what our pilots experienced. And I mean, it's common knowledge. You had Russian scientists in the 70s and 80s doing the whole CE5 thing. They're like, we don't need to go to space, we just know how to call them. And they would use
Mhm,
this one specific Air Force base, and they would go out and they would make contact. And I'm thinking, Jesus, that's brilliant. So, essentially, we're one of the last ones to come on board. Um, so
Well, I think again it boils down to a power struggle that's going on, and
right,
that there's a group that wants it out, and another group, mainly the Pentagon, that doesn't want it to come out. And
sure.
why is that? Well, if it's true, based on what Grush said, and now Kirkpatrick said, that hey, if we have these vehicles the last thing we want to do is tell our enemies,
Exactly.
whoever they are,
Sure.
that we have this, and supposedly, according to Stephen Greer, a lot of these craft are ours.
Oh, yes.
And
I've
and
read that.
and
Yeah.
and so, and it has remarkable capabilities, and so I think that that's something that we certainly want to keep as a whole card, if you will,
Mm.
if we do go to war or we have conflicts that get out of hand. Um, it's complicated. It's
It
really
is, because
complicated.
then you have to start, like, do you have concerns about this whole false flag thing that's going around? Are you concerned about the
Sure,
false
sure,
flag?
sure. It's a distinct possibility. I don't think that would happen. That's my own gut
Right,
feeling
right,
on it.
right,
But it's certainly a possibility,
right.
that whether it's a
I have to
holographic
ask, yeah, because it's a
capability.
concern. It's something that's floating
Yeah,
about, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
so
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Um, comment: the United States is in hardcore
Or
denial
denial.
over aliens and
Uh,
alike. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
that's. Well, I mean, there's some people in the government that are, and there's others that aren't. So
right.
it again, it's a combination of things going on, and the two sides are,
Mhm.
struggling to you know make a point, whether it's to bring it out or to suppress it. And
I think you're at that point where you have those who risk coming out and talking about it, but the risks are less now because you've got more people at least who have publicly said, "Okay, we're on board." I look in Canada when you had the former Defense Minister Paul Hillier.
mhm.
He just went for broke, just put it out there and said,
Yeah,
"Okay, yeah, they're a thing." We're
yeah,
just like,
sure.
"What?" You know?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
I had the opportunity to meet him and talk about that. And yeah, he was at the age that
Yeah.
he didn't give a shit anymore.
I know. That's what I mean. It's just like, what
So
happened?
so I'm just gonna say it like it is, which is
Right.
great, which is great. I mean, these people have wonderful credentials. It was like um, Colonel Corso.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to meet him at the 50th anniversary of Roswell,
Right.
and I said, Here it is. You've come out in this book the day after Roswell,
Mhm.
talking about what you did, and you were a member of the Eisenhower administration. You had great credentials. Aren't you worried about your reputation in that regard? Because at that time, people were still very skeptical about this whole situation. And he said, no. He said, I no. Uh, our grandkids need to know this. Our kids need to know that this has happened,
Mm.
and this is going on.
Right.
And so there was no question in my mind that I believed the guy, you know,
Mhm.
because there was some people saying, well, it was just made up. But no, no. Uh,
Right. Right.
it-
It's touch and go for sure. Um, Dolly says, "Hello, Dolly." I always want to break out in song when I hear your name. I do. I do. I've been known to do it. Experiences
I,
are
I,
valid witnesses. The
yeah,
government does not own the narrative, much to their chagrin, I am sure.
yeah,
They would
yeah,
love to
no,
own the narrative.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the things that uh, uh, I was at, well, I guess it was the same symposium that I was at where I
Mm,
spoke. Nick Pope was there,
right.
and he was talking about the fact that uh, you know these objects at the time that Lou Elizondo was talking about
Mm,
in the videos that came out.
yeah.
Uh, and they were saying, well, it's not the Russians, it's not the Chinese, and it's not us. So what is it? And Nick said, well, you know what? I hope it's either the Russians or the Chinese if it's not us, because at least we can talk to them.
Right.
So then I went up to him afterwards and I said, you know what? You're missing a boat. I said,
Mm,
you got experiencers that are talking to them all the time. You don't
yeah,
have to pick up a phone. They can talk to them telepathically. They can talk to them
that's
in
true.
person, in
It's true.
person.
It's
So
true.
So it's
But
like,
don't you want to hide those people? Because you have government and military who would be all over
well, I
telepaths.
mean, a lot of people, these experiences have had government people involved with their abduction and the mill lab type of a thing, and
Yeah,
mostly what they're looking for is information. You
right.
know, they're not necessarily doing anything really drastic to these people,
Hmm.
other than scaring the crap out of them. Uh,
Hmm.
but
That's enough.
yeah, and
Yeah,
putting implants in them because the implants are not only aliens, but also I guess the government is
right.
doing the
Sure,
same process. But
sure.
yeah, so it's so many crazy things.
There are. Tamara, hello. Do you feel there's an effort to normalize aliens and the paranormal worldwide? Great
Well,
question.
I think it's happening in spite of itself, so to speak. Yeah, look if you look on any news feed, there's always a UFO story on there these days. How
Yes,
many programs are on television that are talking about these types of things?
many,
Many,
many.
and
All the old ones are coming back too. There's a
uh,
demand.
yeah, and so and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have cell phones that have the
Mm,
capability to take pictures, and
yes.
so that you're getting all kinds of feedback
Mm,
from people that have taken some incredible
mhm.
pictures, and so it's just happening. It's like an
Right.
evolutionary process that's going on.
Do you think
I,
maybe this is why the government has jumped on board? Because everybody's got one of these for the most
mhm,
part, and
mhm.
they can get the best evidence.
Oh yeah,
People are sharing it. At one point,
oh yeah,
governments needed programs to go out and do something and gather, whatever they can get. You don't have to do that anymore because people are just
mm,
willingly giving it up.
yep, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I think that it's just an evolutionary process that's going on because of our technological capabilities that we
Hmm.
have.
Right.
That this is becoming much more evident, and so it's just a combination of many factors that are all coming together to make it more evident. So
Right. Right. So this is an evolution of
mhm,
sorts.
it is
People
absolutely,
are awakening to the possibilities that we really are not alone. I mean, even the
yeah.
Vatican said that they were preparing to put a team together to deal with people who are having experiences.
Oh yeah,
That's that's pretty big.
there was an edict that was put out years ago by one of the popes that that aliens are part of God's plan as well.
Well,
So
they've got an alien skull now that they've in the archives. They've got to say something, man.
uh,
It's there. It's there. I think you get to that point where you have to, if you can't beat them, join them, sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Because if people find out you have this, then it's sort of like, well, why are we following you? You've been lying to us. I think it gets to that point. Do you think there's a fear with the government as well? Because this is something that's really widely discussed, is that part of the fear with the government in disclosing all of this is they have to hold themselves accountable if they admit that, yes, we've been taking you too.
hmm
So,
Oh sure, oh sure. I
right?
mean, how many programs has the government screwed the people like MK Ultra? I mean, there's so many programs that they or
Yes.
the infecting people with syphilis and things of that nature.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we've been experimented on in many cases, and it came out later. Of
Mhm.
course, it did come out of all those
Sure.
programs, and then what happened? Nothing,
Right. Right.
nothing, and
Yeah.
and it's the same thing here. I don't think
If
you're going to
taking
be
it was
able.
good for you, we know best.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a court? room where you have some experiencers in there, and and a judge and a jury and all that, and people talking about their experiences, and then the government, saying, "What are you talking about? You got to be crazy," and there's, oh my God. So
But that's
nobody's
been
gonna,
part
nobody,
of
yeah,
it.
I don't think the government's worried about it. I really don't.
No,
I don't
but
think
that's what
so.
I'm saying. That's been a part of it. It's been you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. We're
Hmm.
hiding it. I mean, Roswell is a perfect example. You've caught everybody coming around saying, you never saw anything. Just clean the
Yeah,
whole place out.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, what? Like,
yeah. Threatened and everything. Yeah, exactly,
it got
exactly.
pretty ugly. It
Yeah,
did. It did,
sure, sure.
But here's hey, Susan. It's disclosure. We are it. No government needed unless they admit their part. What we were just talking about. It's like,
Yeah, exactly,
and
exactly.
JR agrees with you. Just about everything is an experiment on us
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Not wrong. Yeah. So what's next? What's next? Do you brace yourself, especially because you have an organization that works with
Well,
people, but
uh,
there's a world brace itself for the next step after all of this?
well, one of the things that I heard, okay, uh, and it's and I'll just back up a little bit and
Of
just
course.
say I think what we should do from now on until 2027, I think, is the year that has been prognosticated that something pretty dramatic is going to happen. Um, that we should just party hard,
I'm down.
party hard, because supposedly this was a psychic who's now not with us any longer, out of Bulgaria.
Baba Vanga.
Yes. Did you hear her prediction? It was 2027. Supposedly, this huge asteroid is supposed to hit the Earth. Okay, directed here by aliens. Okay,
Okay, see,
and
normally I wouldn't worry about that, but she's bang on about pretty much everything she has predicted to this point.
exactly, exactly. I mean, she predicted the World Trade Center
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
and so if that's the case, we don't have a whole lot of time, folks.
Chop chop.
So
Yeah,
if
no, I mean her government used to use her for her insight.
yeah,
So
and a lot of psychics are being utilized. I mean,
yeah.
um, I do an interview series on my website, and I've interviewed a gal that was a psychic, and some of the stories that she had, you know, being able to tell a person about future events, it's just remarkable. And of course, those future events did occur. And how is that possible? How can
I
people?
know a few of those type of psychics myself. The gift of premonition is
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
but they take chances, they take chances when they come forward with some of that. So kudos to them for sharing it because
Yeah.
depending on the prediction,
Hmm.
you wouldn't want to be the one who predicted the World Trade Center, for example, who's still breathing,
Yeah.
talking about it
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
you know, um,
Well, unfortunately, when people like that come forward and say things, a lot of people, most people don't give it much credibility.
that's true.
Uh,
That's
Except
true.
she had one hell of a track record,
Right.
and so this one bothers me. This one really bothers me.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
so, like
Yeah.
I say, time to party.
Well, jeepers. Not that I have any objections to anything, but Tamara says the next step is your new neighbor will be an alien.
Hmm.
Okay, let's expand on that a bit. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
on
well,
hybrids being
so
here?
yeah, exactly. Supposedly, you can't tell them apart. They look like you and I. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, David Jacobs wrote a book recently, and he calls them hybrids because they're so advanced now in that process of hybridization that
Mhm.
you can't tell people apart. Well, I've known a couple of people that claim to be hybrids,
Mhm.
and they look like you and I.
Mhm.
Um, and and it's difficult to understand from a scientific standpoint How do you prove something like this? Gary Nolan, again from Stanford University, talked about that we don't have DNA from an alien that we
Right.
can verify. Okay.
This is true.
However,
Yeah.
if we do have alien bodies, that we might have alien DNA.
I'm
And
thinking they wouldn't tell you if they had it,
well, yeah, exactly.
right?
But that would be the ultimate test, that you could compare the two DNAs and say, okay, yeah, this is definitely alien and this is human, and so this person is a hybrid.
Right.
But yeah,
Right. So
uh,
what are your thoughts then on the negative blood type?
well, that's something that came around about 40,000 years ago. All of a
Yeah,
sudden, it
between
showed up.
30, 40. Yeah.
Yeah, and um, a lot of these experiencers seem to have that Rh negative factor, and
Right here.
there you
Both
go.
both my
What
parents.
what is it? Is A? Is it A
I'm
or
A.
O?
I have
You're
family
A.
members who are
Yeah,
O's.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Okay.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
many. I mean, you
yeah,
have all the different A, B,
yeah, yeah.
O. But back in a time, there's such a small percentage of the population, like maybe 15% that is Rh negative. But way back in the day, because I'm aging myself, but
Mm.
both my parents were negative. And I remember my mother saying to me, she goes, the family doctor, which is how the hell did you two find each other?
Well, that's an
Like,
interesting point right there.
right? Like,
That's meant
I'm
to
just
be.
like, what? Yeah.
Well,
So,
you hear about the manipulation that goes on if we're being, you know, uh, uh,
mhm,
if we are experiencers and families
mhm,
are experiencers, that there's a reason why these things happen, is that's
mhm,
manipulated in some way, shape, or form,
mhm.
you know.
Well, there's
So
an even rarer blood type, and it's called the golden blood. There might be only 400 people on the planet who have it.
explain that, because I've heard the term, but what is that?
Okay, let me just I'm going to try to get the exact term. Okay, let me see if I can bring this up here. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay. The golden blood, the rarest blood type in the world. Okay. Fewer than, 50 people
What?
apparently. And this
Wow.
is an article, January 17, 2022. And there's only 50 people have this blood type. Finding a blood transfusion would be terribly difficult. And it goes, the blood is considered Rh null
Oh.
if it lacks all 61 possible antigens in the Rh system. It's
Hmm.
very dangerous to live with this blood type, and
Hmm.
very few people have it. I'm happy to send you this link. It
Hmm.
talks quite a bit
Hmm.
about it, but
Oh yeah, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's interesting. No,
yeah,
I've heard the term, but I didn't really, dig into it.
yeah,
But that
I
that that
know.
that's interesting. RH null.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Hey, what I'll do for you people, just because I love you all, is I'm going to put it right in here for you. Go
perfect.
crazy, people. There we go. Who loves you? You know, yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's definitely it's just something very very unique. So where did that come from?
Yeah.
It's like, how specialized is that?
Yeah, you can only surmise that it was a freak of nature of some sort, something didn't go right,
Well, I'm
or
sending it
went
to you
or
right
went.
now.
Okay.
It'll come to
Wow.
your email. Okay,
That's
there we
that's
go.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
there
amazing.
we are. Dolly says mutation. What
Mm.
kind of mutation? Elaborate, Dolly. Wayne,
Yeah, yeah.
hello. I think these
Mm,
DNA groups are collecting the DNA because the government's looking for something specific. If people are unwilling to give it voluntarily, let's make a fun game of it, and the masses are
yes.
in.
Mhm.
I yeah, I mean, I guess like all of these ancestry places, I had mine done long before these ancestry type
Mhm.
websites started doing it. I went to a
23 and me,
laboratory.
yeah. 23 and me, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, whatever, and then they showed after a while that they were looking for something and collecting something,
Mhm.
but it was exciting, you
Oh,
know.
absolutely. Yeah.
So See my previous message. What did I miss? What did I miss?
See
Okay,
my
hold
previous
on.
message.
I'm sorry, I put a link up. I
Yeah.
just showed, I think they're connecting. Okay, well, I don't see it. Maybe you can repost it. Sorry.
Mhm.
But so, okay. So hybrids, you wouldn't know if you were talking to one.
No, you really wouldn't.
Right.
Based on the fact that they seem to have really perfected the process uh,
Right.
after all these years. Uh, but yeah, I talk about it in my book. That's a section in the book. I talk about hybrids, and
Hmm.
I talk about a lot of the physical characteristics and the psychological effects of the
Hmm.
whole process. Um, and so I think that if someone this is a good book for people that have not really dug into the whole phenomena,
Hmm.
and because basically go over the whole experiencer process. And I have all the charts on the blood types and things of that nature. Uh,
Hmm.
the types of scars that people have, the marks on their bodies that they have, uh,
Right.
and the implants. I mean, the late Dr. Roger Lear did a fantastic job with analyzing from 17 patients the implants, and
Right.
they have incredible characteristics. Some of
Right.
them actually transmit in the deep space frequencies. Uh,
Wow.
they're made out of materials that are not earthly in nature. So, and he had it analyzed by a number of prestigious labs, and
Right.
and so when people talk about the fact that there's no evidence, that's bullshit.
Right.
There
Tell it
there
like it
is
is, Les.
there
Yeah.
is evidence. There
Right.
is evidence,
Right.
and but
It's just not,
people.
we're not being made privy to it, basically.
There's sort of a conscious dissonance about the whole topic, that
Right.
people don't want to hear it. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to see anything. It's like
Right. Right.
hear no
Right.
evil, see no evil, speak no
Yeah.
evil. Um, uh,
I
so,
think there are people out there. I mean, Dolly, I'm hybrid. Dolly's been on the show. Dolly's had a book written about her. I mean, she's trying. She's trying to
mhm,
raise that awareness, and
mhm.
can validate a lot of things, which she's been on the show makes
Y-
it
yeah,
interesting. I think people out there are trying.
hmm yeah,
Maybe do you think they're being blocked in a way? Do you think that there's just I think it's what you said with the stigma. I think
hmm
people who want to come out and talk about it are being perhaps ridiculed, or they're being, they want to discredit you essentially.
Well, it's so difficult for a person that is a hybrid to you know um, be able to give proof to someone.
Well, not
It's a
everybody wants to
feeling.
talk about it either. So she's
Right,
taking
right.
that chance.
Yeah,
I would talk
exactly.
about it.
And that's wonderful, that she's doing that. But, it's like, how do you tell a person that, first of all, that you are a hybrid, and then how do you give them some type of proof? And there isn't
Hmm.
it's a feeling that these people have inside them, that they
Hmm.
know. It's a knowing that things during their lifetime and memories during their lifetime have bubbled up and just
Hmm.
made it incredibly obvious that, yeah, there's
Hmm.
something different about me, and that's
Yes.
what it is. That
Right.
I am a hybrid.
Right. Well, I mean, Rh negative.
Hmm
Is that not, in fact, hybridization in some way? If this is a blood type that just showed up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
even if it was tens of thousands of years ago. I mean, there are people walking around today. But the
hmm
thing is there's nothing. What do you compare where this blood originated from?
Yeah.
So I get the dilemma, but in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
you've got 15% of the world's population who are technically hybridized in some way.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. We don't have, unfortunately, the answers.
Yeah,
We
the
we
Basque
just
people.
don't.
Yeah. The
Basque. Oh,
Basque region,
Basque. Yeah,
the
Basque
Basque
region.
region of
Yeah.
France.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's a lot of people like that there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting group.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think you'll have your people that want to talk about it. There'll be people that don't want to talk about it. I certainly would not want everybody to know. I'm sort of, I'm funny like that. But I just
Mhm.
think you're going to find people slowly coming out of the woodwork. And do you talk to a lot of paranormal people who come to your organization and then they have this starch, sort of like a reality check, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm an experiencer."
Well, most of the people that, and this is interesting factor. When we first got started in 1994, um, you know, our name is paranormal.
Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah,
paranormal, which covers a lot of different bases,
it does. Yeah.
and but over the years, what we've mostly gotten are people that claim to have had contact with non-human intelligence experiencers,
Right.
um, that have, gravitated to our site for whatever reason. And i- and it's so interesting what a correlation that is between what I got involved with, okay, early on as a field investigator, and the types of people that turned out to be experiencers.
Mm,
And so it just became a natural thing for me anyway, when these people did come in, to talk to them. And what we do, we have a third group within our organization called the E.S.T, the
mm,
Experiencer Support Team. These are people that are very knowledgeable in a lot of the areas of this type of phenomena,
mhm,
and so they kind of do triage with these people if that's what they're looking for. They can
mm,
they can pick a couple of things when they hit our site as far as support.
mhm.
One, they can indicate that they want to be put into the support group, and the other thing is to have a person from the EST contact them.
Right.
And that's where we find out a lot of information. And we work with these people
Mhm.
one on one, and
Right.
to find out exactly what's going on and how we can help them. And then, as I mentioned, we do have a referral network of mental health practitioners and hypnotherapists that we can also utilize. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's we get some incredible stories. I mean, just absolutely incredible stories that come
Mhm.
through. And
Mm.
we don't do anything. Keep this all very confidential.
Right.
We don't want to out anybody or
Right.
anything. Uh, but
And if
in my
I
book,
think it's great that they have a place that they can go, and that's what I was gonna ask you about.
mhm,
What are your
eh,
hopes with the book and writing the book?
well, the hope was to basically tell the universe here, if you will, that there is something definitely going on. These people do not have a psychopathology. We back in 2009, MUFON funded a study that I did with a couple of psychologists. And we took 71 people that claimed that they had contact with non-human intelligences and 51 people that were a control group. And we
Mm.
found out that these people did not have a psychopathology. They weren't fantasy prone. Okay,
Mm.
their worldview changed significantly. And I mentioned this earlier, that we need to be better stewards of the planet. They need to
Mm.
be more loving. um, that we found that these aliens were, kind of not really malevolent, and they're not really uh, uh, benevolent.
Oh, okay.
They were kind of
Okay.
in between, based on the information that we got back. But
Mhm.
there was also differences in their temporal lobe activity. The experiencers did have a difference in their temporal lobe activity, um, which maybe gets back to this study that Gary Nolan did between the caudate and putamen area, that there was more connections there
Right.
with these people. So, and he did MRI studies, which we've never done. But
Wow.
we were able to, through these psychological instruments, um questionnaires, uh, ascertain that there were differences in their temporal lobe activity. So there
Mhm.
was a distinct difference.
Mhm.
So that was an interesting factor that came out of that study. So yeah,
Interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
It-
So
it's, yeah, it's good if you can add a little bit of, science to that. It just adds that extra bit of credibility. It just makes it more real
yeah,
for,
yeah.
the ufology community as
If
well.
if anybody's interested in that study, it's on our website. It's called the Omega-3 study, and it's in the articles and document section of our website. So it's an interesting. Uh, it's about only 28 pages. It's a lot of statistics. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I hate
No,
statistics, but the psychologist that I
gotta
work
have
with,
it.
gotta have it. Gotta have it.
Gotta have it.
Yeah,
Um,
and so we just finished the first phase of the Omega-4 study, which that first phase was we went out to psychologists and had them do a questionnaire, and that information is also on our website, and that's and we're working on the second phase, which is to go out to the experiencers of these therapists to get their feedback. So
wow.
it's an ongoing study, and so we're
So there's a
hoping
lot of
to,
cross-referencing going on.
yeah, yeah.
We're going to hold that thought. I'm going to leave up the cover of your book. We're going to do a very quick station and sponsor ID. So, for everyone who is tuning in, you are tuning into the Outer Realm Radio. Our special guest tonight is Les Valez, and we are talking about his book, The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact. What a phenomenal show. We're just, we still have another half an hour or so for you guys to get in on this. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So big kudos to Folgers. We appreciate you so much. Also, big thank you to Justice Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, who is an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music. You can find his music on all of your favorite streaming platforms. He is the man and the voice behind our intro that you hear every single night. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but can do pretty much anything you need him to do. So, big thank you to everybody. We appreciate you so much. And yes, no matter where you are, here's our third host, Tamara. Like, share, and subscribe. No matter where you are watching the show, which platform, we have 8 of them, Roku TV being one of them. So we're live on Roku tonight and every night. And of course, YouTube, Facebook, that's all over the place. So please, if you like what you see, you like what you hear, show us some love. And of course, oh yeah, the network too, which of course is the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. There, done the
Wow.
work part of my job. I know.
Well, let me just tell you, I drink Folgers coffee every day.
Folgers loves you, Les.
Yes.
They're awesome.
I don't have a mug though. I don't have a Folgers mug.
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you a funny story. We often will say to people, if you want to promote yourself
Hmm.
in front of like a lot of people and a lot of listeners, we just say, make us a little commercial. Just, it has to be MP4 format. Make us a little commercial where you're just drinking or mentioning a Folgers,
Hmm.
and it's like free advertising because you have 3 million people who hear it, and then you'll have, it's
Wow.
just in the archives for like ever.
Oh, okay,
So
great
we
idea.
we had guests in who were in the UK,
Hmm.
and they're just like, no, we don't have Folgers here. So the Folgers family originates from the UK.
Oh,
And when
really?
they came over here, they went into Massachusetts. They were a whaling family, and they were actually
Wow.
got an honorable mention in Moby Dick. So they're very historical family as well to
Huh.
the
Wow,
United
that's
States,
interesting.
right? Oh no, they came on our show and actually quizzed us on our own sponsor. We failed miserably, and I had to do a whole makeup show on it. So I had to send these cups to England so
Oh.
they could do a commercial. Like, wow.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And Folgers, by the way, they watch the show and they love it. They love when
Oh,
they
well,
see people do that.
what a wonderful sponsor you have there. That's great. That's
We
great.
love them. They're a lot of fun, and they
Mhm.
they they watch the shows, and they love to see the guests, and and the people
Uh,
just sort of get involved with their product. This is people will
mhm.
show, look at, we've got this Folgers or this Folgers, and it's
Yeah,
awesome. So
that's great.
yeah, it's awesome for sure. So okay, so getting back to the book, when you talk with people, I mean, you obviously put a lot of cross-referencing and everything into your research. When people are getting hypnotized, and the reason I say it's just like it's one of those things you can't take back once you know it,
Hmm.
unless they scrub you again,
Yeah,
but what are the races of ETs that come up the most?
yeah. There's like five major ones, I guess. Yeah, certainly the Greys, and I always have this little thing about the Greys. It seems like the Greys are not only they're not by themselves. They always have either a tall gray, you got the short grays, number one, which
Yes.
usually do with the abduction. Those are the guys that usually come in and take you through the wall or through the ceiling or whatever. And then you have the tall grays, and then you have the mantid type, praying mantis type,
Yeah.
that seems to be ultimately in charge of the whole situation. And
Really?
then you have the Nordic types
Right.
that look like Scandinavians, if you will,
My
and then you have the reptilians, and then you have the old military type people
Of
too
course.
that get involved, oftentimes involved with these combination of entities.
Right.
Um, so those seem to be the major ones
Right.
that people talk about, but there's variations on all of them. Just like,
Well, Paul Hellyer seemed to think there was like over 160 different races.
right, right. But what you seem to I mean, you have interdimensionals, which are a whole nother ball
Right.
game. Okay,
Okay.
other than these more physical type entities,
Right.
extraterrestrials, if you will,
Right.
um, and then you have these light beings, which are a whole nother uh, breed of cat that seems to
I've had
interact.
experiences with them too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. They're beautiful experiences,
Yeah, yeah, they
you know.
typically are. They typically are. You know,
Right.
you hear this a lot in near-death experience type of scenarios where these entities are beings of light,
Mm.
and but
Right.
there's yeah, I've heard all kinds of numbers as far as all the different races, and I talk about mostly these types in the book at this point, and where they're supposedly from,
Hmm.
and what they typically are, whether they're like the short grays are more biological, robotic in nature,
Right. Like
and
Dolly
then
was saying, AI, I guess, right?
yeah,
Sort of
yeah,
thing. Right.
exactly. And then you have the mantid type that are very, very unusual, obviously. And but
I don't even like him in my garden. It's
they're,
just
they're
like
pretty
this little
nasty,
arms
nasty.
at you. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
aggressive. They get up and they
yeah, yeah,
so I couldn't imagine one that was 12 feet tall,
yeah.
but
Exactly,
so
exactly.
who seems to be the bad kid on the block when it comes to people who have been regressed?
Mostly, obviously the worker bees. They're doing all the probing, things of that nature,
Right.
seem to be the real bad guys in all of this.
Mhm.
But the mantid type, they kind of just sit back and like running the show. So there's not a lot of
They're the observers.
a lot of interaction going on. Uh, and then you have the reptilians, which there's most people talk about the fact that they're not really nice. But then I've heard all stories that they're a group that are loving.
Yeah.
They're nice guys,
I've
and
heard
that
I've
and that
heard that too.
Yeah.
about 50-50.
And that they've been here before us on this planet.
Yes.
That this is their home too. So
Right. Right. Well, they would have been here, before us.
mhm,
Some people believe that, the reptilians were instrumental in our
mhm,
development as well. So
yeah.
it's there's so much that we don't know because I feel that, we're suppressed. So much has been kept from us,
Oh,
and
sure.
and now we're I feel like we're children just waiting to get any morsel of information that can be given to us. And it's sad, really, because if we just look at all of the monuments out there,
Mhm,
you go down to even like South America, for example. I mean, the ancient people emulated what they saw, or they wrote about it, or their oral
mhm,
history talked about it. Just look at the temples in South
mhm,
America. Just look at, I mean, in ancient Sumerians, the same. There's a town in, I think it's Brazil or Peru. I cannot recall it, but there's a statue of a reptilian
mhm.
being in a robe, and he helped these people when they went underground to avoid, I think it was an invasion or some kind of a disaster, and they were underground for years, and he educated them and he helped them survive. And this was in this area, and now this town has a commemorative of him.
Isn't that amazing? It is. It
Right? Yeah.
well, talking about structures and things of that nature, like Baalbek and those giant mega ton blocks. How
Yes.
could how could how could back then, how could they move those things? How the
Yes.
hell did they do that? Or these, Sacsayhuaman in Peru.
Right.
These blocks that looked like they were once liquid and they just came together, and oh, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. That blows my mind every
It
time I look
is.
at that.
How can people expect us to believe that there was nothing greater here before us? Even when we talk about giants.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean, come on. It's just like, you
yeah,
can look at places like Sardinia, you look at places like even here in
yeah,
North America, the
yeah,
mounds. I mean,
yeah.
everything. It's just how can well, Smithsonian was responsible for really getting rid of so much of that evidence. They would just dump bones into the ocean.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's unfortunate. This
Really.
is part of our um, what the path not taken, or the path that should have been taken and was suppressed for probably not only scientific reasons, because one guy thought that, well, here's the latest theory on it, and this doesn't comply with the theory, so we just throw it away. We don't want to deal with it, or or,
Academia.
or for religious reasons.
Yes.
Religion has have done a lot of bad things.
That would, well, how many wars have been waged in the name of religion, right?
Oh, yeah, and it's still going on.
Yes,
It's to
yes,
this day.
yes, exactly. I think we get to a point, where, yeah, I'll put this up, Dolly. Yeah, all humanity carry the DNA of giants. Yeah, I guess, and you'll have people on the fence with that one, but I think anything is possible, you know, and you have
Hmm.
so much out there with the Native American people who
Oh
tell
yeah.
stories of giants, and you go to these serpent mounds and these other mounds, and you just look at structures that even here in North America, then you're looking at it going, no, we
Hmm.
don't believe nothing's here.
Okay. There's nothing here. There's
No,
nothing here.
nothing to see here, people. Keep moving
Nothing's
on.
here. Yes, exactly.
Right. Right,
Oh
right.
my God. Yeah.
Exactly. So the book, what are you
Hmm.
hoping this does for people? Where do you go after this?
Well, that's a good question. As far as the book is concerned, like I said, it was for me. I wanted to get the word out that experiencers exist, that they're not crazy, that there is physical evidence. We do have evidence, and that there's a whole group of stories from these experiencers, which are fascinating, that are in the book. So, and as I said earlier, I talk about the physical aspects of the experience, the
Yes.
psychological aspects of the experience. So it's an educational book, basically.
Right.
And hopefully, that more people will, that have had questions about this whole phenomena will be able to better understand it. Now, as far as where do you go next? Well, that's a good question. And I've been thinking about, what the next book be about, and maybe the thought came to mind, that perhaps it would be a look at what 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 do they want? What is it that these entities are wanting, and why are they here? What are they doing? Where are they from? All this kind of stuff, to get more deeply into the entities themselves.
Mhm.
And part of the research that we're doing right now is we've got a 200 uh, 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 questionnaire, 200 questionnaire
Mhm.
that we're going to be sending out to these experiencers to better understand the aliens themselves. And so from that research itself, I'm hoping that basically gives me enough information to perhaps come up with another book,
Right.
and be able to present that. Uh, so
I think
this.
that would be fascinating because there's a lot of experiencers who have basically said, "No, I've been giving messages. I have a
Mhm,
message to humanity."
mhm, yeah,
And they don't have a platform to voice it.
right. One of the things that came out with a number of the experiencers was that the talk of reincarnation. Um, this which leads me to another story. But yeah, the
Please.
aliens say that the reincarnation is a universal process. This is something that is part of the universe.
Mhm.
That, and
I
one day
believe
in
that.
one of the support groups that I was facilitating, a person said to me, "I've seen you before." I said, "Oh, where? At a UFO conference or something like?" They said, "No, I saw you on board the craft." I said,
Hmm.
"Really, really? That's interesting." And I kind of blew it off. I didn't
Right.
think much about it. It was like a year and a half, 2 years later, that a totally different person in the support group said, "Hey, I've seen you before." I said, "Really? Where? UFO conference?" Same thing. "No, no, no. You were sitting on this bench naked on board the craft, and
Oh, beautiful.
you were freaking out. You were freaking out, and they told me to go over to you to calm you down." Well, at that point, I decided, okay, shit, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, and
I don't
I'm
wanna be naked.
I'm gonna go get regressed.
Right.
I had three separate regressions, and I didn't I nothing along those lines came up.
Right.
Um, and I I had multiple past lives. That's what came out, and all of it was involved with the military. Most of them, every one of them, except for one, where I was a restaurant owner in the 1800s in Spain, and anyway,
Right.
but the rest of
Right.
them were all involved with military. And
Interesting.
this lifetime, I've been involved with the military. I had 6 years of military service,
Right.
and
Well, thank you for your service.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And so there was definite linkage there. So then it was like I was talking to somebody later on about this whole situation, and they said maybe somehow this person connected with you in a previous lifetime, and that's when this abduction occurred. Because that's one of the things that happens in this whole incredible phenomena, that there
Right.
are time shifts, missing time, uh, misplaced time. I mean, it's like they bring you back before they take you, type stuff.
Yeah, right? I know, it's a vicious cycle, and you're begging, "I don't wanna come back. I'm tired. Now you're going back. Here, go to the store." Damn. So,
So
yeah.
these are the kind of things that happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I could completely see that. I know I've had lives where it's been the sort of the same idea, but if they follow a bloodline and they follow the essence, because I tend to think that we reincarnate into our own, often into our own bloodlines. I
Hmm.
don't, I mean, not that we can't outside of that, but there is that theory that we can reincarnate within our own bloodlines repeatedly. Might not do it for 1,000 years, but and I always, when I first heard that, I thought it makes sense because of some of my lineage. And when I think back to where I was, through regressions, when they're like, oh no, we had this life or this life, I'm kind of like, I think that might be a thing. I'm really thinking it might be a thing, which was fascinating to me. That whole perspective. We have a lot of that memory too, that
Yeah.
imprinting,
Well,
ancestral
there's
imprinting.
there's a lot of cases of people um, reincarnating, and like this kid that all of a sudden starts to talk about World War II, and all the remembrances of flying, and he had such detail. There was no
Oh,
possible way that this kid could know
it's
that. But
extraordinary.
yeah,
It's
and then
extraordinary.
people coming back with marks on their body
Mhm,
where this person was shot in a previous lifetime, and that's exactly where they were shot.
mhm.
Yeah, and so
It
it's
it's extraordinary.
yeah.
Wayne, who's in chat here, worked with a man who's a friend of his, and from England.
Hmm.
And when he was 4 years old, he was talking about all the schematics of a Spitfire.
Mm,
He goes, "No,
yeah.
no, this is how it works. This is what you do. This is
Hmm.
how the engine works. This is blah 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 blah." And then he goes, "I had no idea what a Spitfire was." Like,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
talked about it and I knew it, and he was right
Yeah.
as a child.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I mean that stuff is just absolutely mind blowing,
it
you know.
is. It
But
is.
it
It's
goes to show you
fascinating.
that this reincarnation is real. It happens. It
Oh,
absolutely happens. By the way,
I
I think I saw a comment. Lisa said she's a pilot. Was
no,
that,
this would be Dolly,
or
and
Dolly? Excuse
Dolly,
me,
by the
Dolly.
way, is ex-army. So
Oh,
woohoo!
good
And
for you.
she's
Congratulations.
she's
Thank
a
you for your service.
she's a UFO pilot.
Oh, oh,
You guys should talk.
oh, oh,
Just
wow,
This is
cool.
what I love
Okay.
about the show is somehow because people hear what the guests have to say. I love seeing it all come together because as it moves along, you just like you're bringing people together who keep this whole cycle going because the outer
Mhm,
realm was designed to be a platform. And little unbeknownst to me when it was created back in 2019 that it would grow
mhm,
to the point that it did, but that so many connections would be made here that would keep all of the information highway flowing.
mhm, mhm. Oh, that's amazing. It's amazing. And I have to ask you, this is an interesting connection between you and Folger. Is there somebody within the Folger organization that has basically had experiences or something like that to
Y-
have?
you know I don't I don't know. They're an extraordinary family, and I'm part of this amazing network to which I
Hmm.
also manage, by the way, and so which is great. But they actually, I guess it was somebody within the organization who followed my television career too. So because they knew who I was.
Uh-huh.
And so what they came to the owner of the network and said, "Yeah, we'll sponsor them." And
Oh,
they sponsored both of our shows, both
wow.
nights. So we are pretty we love them, of course. So
Oh, yeah.
we can't get enough of them, but yeah, so we're very fortunate. Are there experiences? Whew, I'm sure there are people out there who are experiencers and have
Hmm.
no idea because you just
Yeah.
don't get to remember it.
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
um, Zizan says, I have been coming across blue beings of late, both on the
Hmm.
astral travel and dreams, and have come across a few articles out of the blue. No
Hmm.
pun intended. What are your thoughts on blue celestial beings?
Celestial beings.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, Willie Strieber was involved with blue beings. Of course, they were.
Mm-hmm.
probably extraterrestrial in nature as opposed to celestial in nature. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely, there was a woman that was involved with our organization many years ago that actually was a great artist, and she was involved with blue beings and had some incredible pictures that she drew of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Very ethereal, and yeah, so blue
Interesting.
is a popular color, if you will. It's kind of
Right.
it's my favorite color, by by
Oh,
the
there
way,
we go.
as well.
Well,
But
there we go. No, I love it.
yeah, it's not unusual. It's not unusual. Yeah.
Right. I love it. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more people coming forward.
Hmm.
And I think this will be great for your organization. I think people will I will put the website down in the show description as well. I'll go back and do some editing on that.
Hmm.
Or have ask the producer to do it and make sure that people can find you.
Oh,
Be,
please, thank you
oh,
very much.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, but as we near the top of the hour, tell everybody how to find you
Yeah,
aside from the website. I mean,
yeah,
what do you have
yeah.
coming up? Are you doing any speaking engagements?
Well, one of the things that I've been doing a lot of, and first of all, I want to thank you very much, Michelle.
Pleasure.
If and for people like yourself that do shows like this is so important to get the word out on so many of these topics, these types of topics, because I think there's there's two biggest things on the internet. Okay, number one, of course, is pornography, but the second thing is UFO related types of
Right.
things. And so I think that there's a great, hunger for information. And so that's what we try to do. But our main mission is to help people having paranormal experiences.
Right.
And, we have our website at opusnetwork.org. And we have quite a bit of information on there, many aspects in the articles and documents section
Hmm.
that could be very helpful for people, book recommendations.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things, as a nonprofit organization, we depend on donations. So if anybody listening to the show tonight has the wherewithal or the interest in maybe helping us out, we would greatly appreciate
Throw a
it.
shekel less this way.
Yeah, yeah, throw a shekel. Thank you.
You're
Or
welcome.
two. Or two.
Yeah, two
Uh,
shekels would be better than one shekel.
yeah, there you go.
Right.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, I think because of the recent events that have occurred with this revelations about the fact that we do have UFOs or we do have alien bodies, and it's sort of a confirmation for the experiencer that their experiences are real,
Hmm.
and that there's going to be more people coming forward based on these revelations. And we're always looking for more therapists, mental health practitioners, and hypnotherapists. So if anybody out there that fits that bill, we'd love to talk to you and have you come on board. And as far as events go, one of the things, again, shows like yours, last year I did over 40 podcasts, um, and that helped significantly with getting the word out that we do exist. And this year, not quite on that kind of a schedule, but, you know, uh, again,
Hmm.
I greatly appreciate Michelle having me back on your show again, and
Pleasure.
it's always
Pleasure.
a joy to talk with you.
Thank you. Well, you have
You're
an open door policy. You write another book. I want to know about it. I had to
uh,
find this online, Les. I don't know why I didn't hear from you.
okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, I'm really serious. If you have something that you want to talk about,
Sure.
just email me and
Okay.
we'll put you in. We'd love
Okay.
having you on. I know
Oh, thank you.
Amelia's going, because she's just down and she's got lots going on. She goes, I don't want to miss this show, but I'm dying over here. It's like,
Oh,
okay,
geez.
Amelia.
Oh,
I
thank you.
know
I
she really,
appreciate it.
really wanted to be here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry she couldn't be. That's too
Yeah,
bad.
we
Yeah.
love you, Les. We do.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank you very much. I love you too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I love you too.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm going to email you because there's a few things. Like I'll send you links, and
Okay.
I'll send you
Hmm.
Dolly's email.
Okay.
Okay, because I have permission to do that. So
Okay.
I will make that connection,
Okay.
and I'll
Great.
pop in a couple of other things there for you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. Really a great time tonight. Super.
Thank you so much. Me too. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night, Les.
Hey, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night. Well, guys, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. I just really, really love this man. He's just a joy to spend the evening with. We always, we always have a good time with him. Try to catch his other interview. They're going to be going back in the Wayback Machine a little bit, but it was really a fantastic interview. But we have come to the end of our segment tonight. Big thank you to Les Valez. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Huge thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Sticker. Huge thank you to Steve McGinnis. Guys, feel free to email us if there's something you'd like to see, or if you have something that you're researching, you've written a book. We want to hear about it. So contact us at the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Check out our Facebook page, message us there. I've had people comment on our YouTube show and say, I'd like to be a guest. Whatever it's easier for you guys, just reach out. Next week, we welcome Wednesday night the return of our good friend Mark Ollie, all the way from the UK. He's going to be discussing his book, The Life and Times of the Real Robin Hood. I love that stuff because I am a nut for ancient history. So stay tuned for that one. Thursday night, we welcome the return of Dan Baldwin and George Sewell, who is going to be discussing their newest book, Paranormal Pendulum 3. And this is the part that I am waiting patiently to talk about: the sky people who are in contact with the Native Americans. And there's all kinds of stories, and they've just been all out on this. So tune in for that on Thursday night. So until then, guys, I have one more plug to do. Next Tuesday night, we noticed that we had Faye Ewing in our chat room. I'm going to be on her new show called Faye's Angels. So check her out on Latino Psychic Visions. I believe it's going to stream on there because that's their main show. And I'm just going to spend an hour with her, and we're going to have a chit chat, or a parlay, so to speak. But anyway, until then, guys, have a fantastic weekend. Thank you to everybody in chat. You guys always make it that much more fun, and we love you. So don't forget to like up the show, share it up with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, whichever platform you're watching on, because I know there's a few tonight. Okay, good night. Love you guys.